Welcome to this week's video of our Vibe of Our Tribe series. Today we're going to start our first of our mini-series of some of our classes and a look at the classes that Tribe offers. So this week we're going to dive into our tumbling classes, and our registration is all done on our website. So if you're looking to sign up for a class, you can do it at register.ourtribeathletics.com. The link is on the screen here. The classes for tumbling are all once per week for 1 hour. They're $50 a month. You can join and drop at any time, so super flexible with your schedule, and as your schedule or your athlete's schedule changes, no problem on that. We have classes for ages 3 and up, so really we even have some college kids in classes, but typically ages 3 to 18 is kind of our target range for our tumbling classes. So today I'm really excited and fortunate to have with me Coach Austin, one of our tumbling coaches. He's kind of one of our in-house tumbling experts, and he's going to help me just talk through our classes at Tribe. So Austin, welcome. Can you start by just telling us a little bit about like your tumbling background and your coaching experience and your background there?
So I started with gymnastics about 3 years old. So I've been in the tumbling world for about 23 years. I was in gymnastics from like 3 to 9 up until about third grade. We lived in a pretty rural area. It's hard to get it anywhere. So I started coaching back in high school. Finally found a gym where I could go coach. And then I went to college for cheer. I competed at nationals in Daytona. And then did some coaching at gymnastics centers and an all-star cheer program before coming to Tribe.
You've been at Tribe now for 4 years, primarily like in a tumbling coaching role, some of the stunt classes as well. Give us a little insight to kind of our different tiers of class. I know that's adapted a little bit since you've been here, but just give everyone like a brief breakdown of beginning, intermediate, and all levels.
Right. So our beginning level basically starts with the little ones coming into the gym, getting introduced for the first time. It's always kind of like a loud, busy environment. They get introduced to our gym. Kind of start with little body basics of where to put their arms and how to control their body, and we kind of just get them moving and having fun in the gym and get that introduction with working with in a coaching environment rather than a school environment or a home environment.
How about the intermediate class then? That's kind of our next step up in age and skill.
The intermediate class is where we throw a little bit of independence at them. We get them working on drills on their own, get them a little bit more one-on-one with the coach, start working on strength and holding their bodies up and putting their bodies in the shapes that they need to progress from a simple back bend, back walkover into that all-level tumbling class.
And then finally, all levels. I mean, this is kind of your primary focus as a tumbling instructor at Tribe. These are the classes that you coach. What are the all levels classes like? What do they encompass, and what is the end goal of those classes?
The all-level tumbling class is where we throw everything that they learned, kind of that confidence builder. There's a lot of independence, there's a lot of drills, a lot of repetition. So we like to throw a little bit more at them and really build those skills with using a big portion of the gym. We're able to spread out, we're able to use a lot of different aspects and really help each kid a little bit more independently because they've grown, they're more mature, and they can handle working on their own and working through problems on their own with our help and insight.
I know one question we get a lot, like on the office side for all levels, is class size, kind of how do we control that? Our ratio is typically about 1 to 10, one staff member per 10 athletes. We try to keep it at 1 to 8. Sometimes it goes 1 to 12, but 1 to 10 is a good range for that. Talk to us a little bit about just like having athletes of different ages and different abilities, and as a coach and running a class, what you do to make sure everybody is getting the most out of that class time.
With the classes, we try to keep skill levels kind of working together, but we also don't want say somebody who's 6 years old working with an 18-year-old, because that 18-year-old's fine working with them and they enjoy it, but that 6-year-old may don't feel overwhelmed working with somebody that's bigger and, throwing skills that they're not, or just throwing them with more power. So I like to put them paired with a little bit more age-wise, somebody that they're comfortable with, but also, age and skill play a big part in keeping them, comfortable working where they're working.
Right. I guess just kind of jumping in, like for your philosophies, and I think Tribe and you encompass a lot of the same thought process on how we should progress skills and build skills. I think first and foremost for you personally as a tumbling coach, what's the most important thing that you try to train or look at in every athlete that you touch or that you coach, regardless of the skill? Like take the skill aside, what's the most important thing you try to implement with every athlete?
I like to see how every athlete is like different. Every athlete has their own personality. Every athlete, we kind of communicate the same way. It's coach to athlete, but you have to communicate the way that they understand, or the way that they will it'll click, and they'll be able to implement what you're saying. I really try to make it more of an independent approach for each athlete, and that's why I am constantly creating new things to do, because every athlete learns different. I use metaphors all the time, and I have to find that metaphor that makes sense with that kid, especially when you work with maturity level. Explaining something doesn't always, you know, can't always be just straightforward. It has to be how that individual person understands it.
Do you feel like every athlete learns with the same set of drills for a particular skill, or do you feel like a lot of times you have to adapt maybe to their learning process?
Yeah, 100%. Every kid learns different. They learn different in school, they learn different at home. So in the gym, it's just as important to make sure that the drill that they're doing makes sense and can help them in progression towards their skill. Some kids will take a drill and use it, and then go right to the next drill and use that. And other kids need, a different drill to start with, or a different drill to go with after that. It really just depends, where they're at, where their body control, and what really clicks.
And how do you think you read that as a coach from athlete to athlete? So, maybe you just taught a kid a back handspring and you used this 7 or 8 or 9 sets of drills and it worked really well for them. And then you get this next kid working on their back handspring. Like, how do you adapt that or recognize that maybe they need these extra steps, or maybe they can skip some of these steps because they really get it physically and mentally?
Right. So I try not to change things too fast, because sometimes, everybody learns at different speeds. So this drill may not look like they clicked right away, but, doing it, repetition a little bit before I really see, okay, this drill's not quite what they need, because they need, they're working on this part. So then I switch it. I try to make them understand the drill, but then you can see it when, when somebody doesn't understand something, especially working with the younger kids like we work with. You can kind of read their body, read their emotion, like they where something just doesn't make sense, and that's when you change it.
What are your thoughts on, like you said, everyone learns at maybe a different speed. So maybe one kid has to do the drill 50 times to really feel what it's like, and a kid has to do maybe 100 times. What's the benefit and disbenefit of like perfect repetition versus just doing it to do it? I know sometimes it's, hey, I need you to do this jump back drill 10 times. And in a class setting, we can't be eyes on them for all 10 reps. What would you tell the kids? Like what's important to make sure that they're doing so they're actually learning to benefit them versus honestly disbenefit them?
Doing, like you said, the reps, doing them wrong, it doesn't help. So we want to make them do it right, which for me is, like you said, tell them to do 10 or 15 reps, explain how it goes, and watch them, help them with 1 or 2, then tell them to do 10 or 15 more, walk away and come back, help them with another 1 or 2, and then give them, things to fix before you walk away again. And each time you approach that kid, especially in a class, you give them something to fix, and you help them with what they should do, body position, show them where their arms should be, where their legs should be, hips, and then you let them, 10, 15 reps, figure out how to do that, and then come back. And they may need to do that 10 or 15 or 50 reps more, but you fix one thing kind of at a time in a class setting. You fix it, you let them work on it, fix it, let them work on it. So I like to break down the reps, and then when they're really doing it good, that's when you say, okay, I need 50 or 100 of these before we move on.
You've been in the sport a long time. You learned to tumble yourself, and with a lot of positive progression. What is your like thought or theory or insight on perfection and progression? Like, when is the right time to move on, and how do you look at that?
Yeah, so perfect progression versus fast progression is, to me, is hugely important because you're not always going to be in the, say the perfect scenario, the perfect floor. Our floors are not all the same in our gym. So being able to do that skill technically right means that you'll be able to do that skill in any situation that you're put in. Also, the confidence is there, so you're not necessarily nervous that this isn't going to work right. You've drilled it hundreds of times. You've done it perfectly hundreds of times versus you did it hundreds of times.
For you, like, how do you make sure that a kid is truly ready to move on? Like, what does it mean to like have that level two skill near perfect? Perfect is relative, but like, what does it mean to have that round off three back handstrings nearly perfect, so they're ready to truly start working on a great back tuck or a great, whatever that next skill is?
The progression like that to me works because, one, like the number one in our gym is it's safe. If you progress to a skill you're not ready for, then it's dangerous. So it, tumbling has to be done through the process that that we as coaches you know push for. If we don't see that confidence, that power, that control before moving on to the next skill, especially like you said, three backhand spring, running round off three backhand springs, before working on that running backhand spring back tuck, if that body control is not there, then it doesn't progress into that back tuck either. And then progressing too fast means that those lower skills start to go wrong too.
I think it drives the speed of progression. Even if your previous skills are good, it's easier to learn the next skill. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, 100%. If you get a back handspring and you drill it hundreds of times, how much easier is it going to be to just rebound, reach with your fingers back, and pull that second back handspring out? You've already done the first one like so good that that second one progresses, that third one progresses, running progresses, connecting those skills to other skills, say back walkover back handspring or jump back handsprings. Everything comes easier when there's a good foundation.
How do you work on like cleaning up a skill versus just teaching a new one? I know as coaches, we spend a lot of our time fixing skills. And not that that's a bad thing. That's the job, right? And that's what the classes or the lessons are for. So how do you approach like cleaning a skill that a kid has maybe repped hundreds of times, maybe not with the best technique? Let's say their legs are bent in a back handstring or feet are apart in a back handstring. Like, what do you do to um, help that athlete kind of recover the correct shapes and the right technique?
Because that athlete already has, like you said, hundreds of reps doing this, they're very confident in doing it, then you can break down like where you're putting a block between their feet, tying their feet together with a rubber band. They are so good at doing that skill that you can focus on those feet, and then it's getting that repetition and then doing it the correct way. Again, you can't, once you progress from a skill, you have to keep working on the skills that progressed you to that skill, or they start going wrong and then your foundation starts to crumble. You have to keep And basically, just like in a house, you have to keep the foundation good. You have to keep watching it, make sure the water runs away from your house. If you don't have a good back handspring that stays as a good back handspring, then those skills coming after it don't progress the same way.
What's like some of the most positive things or the most positive thing that you've seen like through your years at Tribe as far as the tumbling program goes?
The experience and the coaches. Overall, like we have a very well-rounded staff, which is always growing because we the gym is growing. Bouncing ideas from coach to coach, coaches learning from each other, and then being able to, give that to the kids. So I'm not a part of every class. It's impossible to be a part of every class. So for me to be able to work through something with a kid working on that drill that works for them, and then showing that drill that I used for other coaches to use, they're like much more rounded in the gym as far as how we can help each athlete. So we've really that's really changed. Even in the last year has changed a lot, just because the more our staff communicates, the better overall for the gym and for the athletes to progress and be on the same page, kind of.
And do you feel like that's like been a big driver in just the growth of Tribe's tumbling program?
100%. The A tumbling program that stays the same will stay the same. The kids will not progress. Our tumbling program is changing, sometimes daily. We're always changing. We're always striving to be better, and do what makes the most sense for the athletes in the gym.
So yeah, our classes have grown, immensely to where we pretty much have wait lists on many of our classes. I'm not going to say all, but most of our classes even have a wait list. For you, Austin, what would some of your goals be for the future of Tribe Tumbling? Like whether it be a year from now or 5 years from now or even 10 years from now, how do you want to see the program continue to adapt and grow?
Yeah, so in those years to come, what I see is, getting more, more equipment, more mats for safer drills, for more drills, and to be able to use across the gym as we get more athletes in the gym at the same time. The other thing that would really be amazing is breaking our classes down even more as far as skill level and maturity level, not necessarily age. So we have those skill levels where, in our classes, in our all level classes, where you could be working on something like a back walkover, a back handspring, and then you have kids on the other side of the floor working on double full twist. So breaking those classes down more with as we grow in staff, as we grow in space and equipment, allows more connection with the athletes, more repetition, and then a little bit more, dedication towards the level that they're at.
Well, man, I appreciate your time and expertise. Austin's just an awesome tumbling coach. So he helps a lot with our staff education and kind of keeping everybody on the same page with new drills and new ideas and just looking at things a little bit differently to create this tribe way that we try to, develop our programs with. So thank you for joining us today for the Vibe of Our Tribe. We will see you next week on the video. Bye.